Welcome to Relationship Mastery, a podcast for those who want to learn how to master the art of creating happy, healthy, and loving relationships. Please join me, Adey-Jones, and my co-host, Barry Selby, each Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific for a lively and informative conversation on everything to do with relationships. Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another week. Hi, Barry. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Good to be back.
Well, I know. Sorry, we're laughing. I had a bit of a flub, but we're here. So, as I was saying last week, I'm things pop up during the week, and I was just telling Barry that I am obsessed with this reality show. I haven't watched reality shows in years, but there's one in particular that I find riveting because of the relationships, and they are all so different. And it's a series called either Love After Lockup or During Lockup or something like that. And I was watching one the other day. It's one of those that you watch like 10 minutes and fall asleep. So that's why it takes me so long to watch one. But there was a situation where one of the women, her partner was being released from jail. And, you know, she picked him up, she pays his bail, they have sex, and then he disappears. And then another woman calls her and says, "Hey, he's my boyfriend, not yours." And she hired a private investigator to find him. This is all happening in a very obviously short time, and she's saying, "But I still love him." And it reminded me of a time many years ago when I was in therapy, when I was in an unhealthy relationship, let's put it that way. And my therapist said the words to me: "Love is not always enough to make a relationship work." And it really hit me because I think on some bizarre level, I had that belief that love was enough. That
Oh yeah,
if I felt this strong feeling of love, then to hang in there, to just to keep, I don't know what it was, but it was like a bucket of cold water, threw on me when I had to realize sometimes you have to let go of somebody when you feel this incredible love for them, but it's just not a good relationship. It's really unhealthy. It's killing you. And
it yes.
yeah, I mean, say more.
Well, this is, I mean, the topic is self-explanatory. When love is not enough, I know from my own experience, definitely where I thought love was the reason and the only thing to put a relationship in place. It's like if you didn't have love, there'd been a relationship. But recognizing that love wasn't the only thing as well, it took a while to figure that one out. And it's such a key understanding, which I think most people get, but I could be wrong, is that it takes more than just love to make a relationship work, because that, frankly, is ridiculous to think that's all you need, because you need compatibility, you need understanding, you need communication, you need all these other things too. So love itself is, and I talked about this a while ago, how love is like the lubricant in relationships that makes it smoother, makes it work more easily, but it's not the only thing that makes it work. And so when we talk about love being the be all and end of relationship, it may be the the permission slip for the relationship, but it's more than just that. It's really about all the other pieces that make a relationship work, which is really the interpersonal skills, so to speak.
Well, I mean, it's so much. There's, compatibility and shared goals and mutual respect and commitment and all of those things.
Right.
I think there's two reasons, and two reasons why I think. I mean, I was 40. No, I was more than 40. I was close to 50, I think. Actually, this is embarrassing. When I first heard that phrase, and and had that awareness that, oh my God, love isn't enough, because I didn't have any of the other things. I really didn't. There wasn't mutual respect. There wasn't compatibility I mean, there was a lot of compatibility, but there were some areas where we're really not compatible. Fidelity being one of them. And,
Yeah.
you know, but it really was. It took me that long. Now, I think that there's two reasons why we buy into that love should be enough. I think one, it's the fantasy. It's what we're fed in films all the time and books. And over the ages, it's like, sort of, I always think back to one of my favorite books as a young girl was was oh my God, I do this all the time. I think of something and then the name goes out my head. But the one, but it was one of the Brontes, and it was when she was the plain Jane school mistress, not school mistress, but she was the tutor for this man's child, and he was dark and stormy and always away, and he ends up falling for her, and it's still I'm going to have to look it up, but it's a story about her love for him, even though he he was hard to love. He was not, he wasn't um, warm or kind. They didn't share any compatibility. She was just left there. She was the nanny of this little child, and he was off in Europe and doing all these different things. And to me, that was my ideal. Was as a child was to fall in love with a very difficult, challenging man that paid me no attention, and I think I carried that through, and I think many people do. They just because we're told that you have these overwhelming, intense feelings of love, and we're not looking at the day-to-day basics. And maybe they're not romantic, and we don't write songs about them or write great books or love stories and things like that about how compatible we are. It's all about how I'm going to die without you, and I also think if you had a very traumatic childhood or dysfunctional childhood where you didn't get the love or or normal basic being taken care of on a basic level. I don't think that you really value those things. You don't see it, so it's not something that's of importance to you.
No, it's interesting because love and slash romance is this deified thing that is set so high as a standard. Like when you achieve that, then everything else should automatically fall into place, and
Hmm.
it does know about. But it's also something. I mean, from my own personal experience, I've fallen in love so many times, but never had a relationship. It's like it's like been around like women I've met and just went. I just fall in love with them because they're so beautiful, so amazing. But after spending a few hours talking to them, I go, no way. So I know that love isn't the only thing, and so it is. Yes, love can conquer all, they say, and love, love is the answer to all these different things. Yet at the same time, functional skills, like you said and I said, are keys to the kingdom, or parts of the relationship components that make the relationship work more effectively. Yes, fidelity, honesty, integrity, communication, trust, connection, friendship, all these different things are part of the puzzle, which are not just love. And so this is one of those traps we fall into when we go, but I love them. And, it's
And
incomplete.
yeah, and usually when we say but we love them, it usually means that yeah, I can see that all of this other stuff is not working out, but I love them.
Hmm.
Meaning, the abuse, the addiction, the affairs, the whatever it is that are making life difficult with somebody. It's almost all of that stuff is brushed aside. It's almost like you're not giving it importance. It's like, yeah, I know all of this exists, but I love them.
Right.
And it's like it all has to exist for there to be harmony and real love. Because again, I think what we're pointing to is when like you said, oh, I fall in love and then I talk to them and then I'm not in love. And it's like, well, yeah, you're clearly infatuated, and which waned very fast.
So there's a small gap between the two of those, between the infatuation and love sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. For me, I think love is based on knowing somebody, really knowing them. And so I only use, but again, like I said, you can fantasize about who this person is and have a fantasy of who they are, and feel that limerence, that infatuation and everything like that, and think it's love, and then you can find out all about them, and you can dismiss all of that. You can just be blind. I mean, love is blind. You just say, oh yeah, I'm going to ignore all that stuff because this feeling I get, this passion, this lust, this whatever it is more important. And and people do, they stay in relationships, and me too, that were highly emotional and had a lot of conflict and drama in them. and and I thought, but love does conquer all, and I love. And And I wouldn't say that I didn't love. I absolutely did love. There was
Yeah.
100% love there. But I was placing more importance on the fact that I loved this person than on whether all this other stuff over here was important or not. And I had dismissed all of this. I had decided that that wasn't important. And and again, and it felt sort of felt like I was when I for me as a young girl, it was more that if I valued all that other stuff, it was like I was thinking about it rather than following the emotion and the feeling. So it was a very um, almost like well, not just that it wasn't romantic, but it was almost calculated as well.
Hmm. That's the thing. It's again, we think of love as being such a catch-all and such a wonderful. I'm trying to think of words to describe it because love is important, obviously, because romance and relationships are built on love. But it's such an interesting thing that we just think that's all it takes, and we fall into this trap that if we just get to loving, we'll be okay. But as you said earlier, like with about compatibility and those things that we need in relationships, it is almost like you need to have a compatibility list side by side with the other person, and then if you've got love as well, yay! It's like jackpot in a way. Like you can then proceed.
Yeah,
But we sometimes go off like half cocked, so to speak, where you don't have all things in place. I mean, that's enough, and that's what I said about infatuation earlier. It's like the desire to have something overrides the actual reality of what we don't have.
yeah. And I just want to comment on what you just said there because I think this is so important. The way you just described that, it was almost like we put the horse before the cart.
No, cart before the
Or the cart before the horse. Me, I get everything backwards. Even that I get backwards. But it's almost like all those things we first said, the trusting another person, liking another person, having shared values, commitment, respect, all of those things. We place love before all of that, and then hope that some of that stuff is there.
Yep.
Whereas if we have that, you know, list in a way or integrated within us that these are really, really the foundations of a good relationship, and if love is on top of that, then that's the relationship for you. But we do it backwards. We're looking for the love first, or that passion, that feeling of passion, and then oh, is this other stuff happening too? But
Hmm.
I also say to people, especially because I work a lot with people with codependency and narcissistic abuse, is that they it's they'll say things like, "Well, the passion's not there." You meet somebody on the first night. Well, he's a great guy, but the passion's not there.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, and I'm just like, you know what? Passion is often your bite meets my wound. We're a
Yeah.
fit because I've got some so we call it passion, we call it love, but it's actually something that's happening, a pull towards another person because there's some work to be done. There's some unhealed aspect of ourselves that we're drawing that type of person in. So I will often say to people, you know, don't look for the passion first. Look for
Hmm.
all you like about the other person. You would be amazed how love can grow. If
Right.
you really like somebody and value them and value their values and all of that stuff, love will come. Not always. I'm not saying, be with somebody that there's no physical attraction. But love has such a depth to it, and it's based on not just on chemistry. It's based on appreciation, shared respect. I mean, it comes with, and it comes over time. Sometimes it doesn't happen overnight. It'd be great if you met somebody and there were fireworks and then all the other stuff matched up, but if there's not fireworks the first night, I know women that will absolutely walk away from a great guy, and I just find that so sad. Why we think the love has to be instant, not
Well,
for
because
months.
it's like we have this romantic just thought about love at first sight. So if you don't get that, then it can't be working. It's almost like it's that faster switch. It's like it's love at first sight, or it's never going to happen. There's no in between for some people. So understanding and what we're making a point in this conversation is that love is something that accumulates. It's not something you start from the beginning with frankly, oftentimes that love is either infatuation or lust or something else. It's not real love. So love has to really accumulate and grow through demonstrated acts, through connections, through conversations, through accumulation of time, where you and the other person become more and more aware that you actually are in sync, and there is a sense of love that grows from that. That's the ideal way of doing it, I think.
Have you ever had a relationship that way round, or is yours usually started with fire and then it's just
I've had
cheery?
more than my share. I've had more than my share of fire-driven ones for sure. That was a great teaching lesson for myself.
Oh,
In
no.
terms of one the other way around, um, it's interesting because one relationship I had was driven by fire. When we broke up, we started growing the love the other way. Where it's like after we broke up, we had the love show up, and we were at that point we were past the relationship, but we have dear friendship now. We love each other dearly, but it wasn't during the relationship where we had that. It happened afterwards.
Yes.
So, but I've had I've had a couple of relationships where it did accumulate slowly, where we knew each other for a long time before we got together.
Hmm.
But generally, the early ones, especially, were definitely fire driven from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting because mine were always fire driven. Um, I have to say they were always fire driven, and it's really just only my last one that I would say that it was the other way around, and it is by far the healthiest, most beautiful relationship I've ever had, and with still so much kindness and love and respect, and
Right.
so I say that so there is hope. It's not compromising. It's not being with somebody that I just wasn't in the place to feel the fire in the beginning. I just wasn't actually. I correct myself. There were two of those where love grew more than
Hmm.
than, than it was initially. And again, it was because I wasn't in a space to feel those feelings, and I needed, thankfully, and I was given time to get over a previous relationship and be ready for that. And I wasn't rushed and I wasn't pressured. And again, that added to the love and respect. It's like, wow, this person isn't sort of pushy and grabby and taking things personally if I wasn't where he was at. So yeah,
It's
no,
feeling worth it. Yeah.
not all.
Well,
So yeah,
and sorry, after you.
no, 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 you go.
Well, I was going to say the thing for me has become clearer is that I've been single for a long time, and because the work I've been doing has put me in that place of where I'm totally clean and okay with that. But I'm also aware that when we get into a relationship, it's going to be all the above. Like it definitely is going to be love based, but it's not going to be instant love. It's going to grow because I really want something I can walk this life, the rest of the life with, so to speak. So what you have and what you created, I see that and go, that's what I want as well. Is have something that's built on such a deep level of trust and connection and communication and understanding and all these different pieces that make relationships work functionally. So it's definitely an evolution for me to get to this point, and I'm grateful for it to see it more clearly this time in my life, because that way I see love from a much clearer lens and how it's such a useful part of a relationship, but it's not be all and end all relationship.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing I was thinking about was we often we often let the love die before we leave a relationship. We
Yeah.
love there, there's still a chance, there's still a hope that we can't walk away when we still love our partner. And that
Hmm.
again is a trap because I know somebody, I'm thinking of a friend of mine right now who left a relationship, and she really did loved her husband very much. And he loved her. But
Hmm.
she desperately wanted a child, and he didn't. Very clear about it. And so she left, even though there was still love on both sides. And they remained friends. And she went on and met somebody else, got married, and had a child. And they've remained friends. And it's interesting because again, as I say, sometimes we stay in a relationship until it's so sour that we feel, okay, it's over. There's nothing there now. We can leave. But sometimes, and I often say this in my classes as well, is leave with love. If we're leaving with anger, we're still attached. We're still attached. We haven't worked through it. But if you can leave and still have a semblance of love for the other person and just know, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, it's just not a
Yeah.
fit. for whatever reason, that relationship that my friend left was not a fit anymore. They married very young. They hadn't really discussed children, and it became very clear that there was no compromising on that on either side. And being able to walk away from a relationship when you know that there's just an issue that cannot be resolved, and it's okay, and
Yeah.
you can, that the love in that case wasn't enough to keep them together, but they still loved each other. So to just be aware that we don't have to destroy or hate our partner to walk away. We can actually walk away with dignity and pride when we realize that, that there's like that shared goals, or
Mm.
communication, or that whatever it is that you're having a disagreement about, or is just not as irreconcilable, that it's okay to leave.
But it's not the most common experience for people to leave in a compassionate, caring place. It's like it's some people do go, it's me, not you, and that sort of thing. They push the other person away to make them feel better. But so many relationships, unfortunately, are as you said, destroyed by anger, upset, discord, things where there is still love, because one of my teachers used to say about how you can't get upset with things you don't care about. So the anger's there because there's still love there, but it's just not working because there are, like, as you said, no irreconcilable. I couldn't say the word either. Differences, and so there's that recognition is that a lot of people work out relationships, and why we do what we do is people get out of relationships carrying so much wounds, baggage, unrequited love, disruption, emotional dysfunction, that they're not ready for another relationship after that. So the love is sometimes weaponized in breakups by people, especially in divorce courts with kids and everything else. That's another story entirely. But that's the thing, is that love can be used negatively just as well as it can be used positively.
Mhm. What this reminds me of? And again, when I was in therapy, my boys were teenagers. My therapist helped me see, because I'd always had such a close relationship with my sons, and then there was a sort of a moment where there was a bit of like, oh, where's this coming from? Around that sort of, mine actually went through it a little earlier, but it's very common for teenagers to act out, to be angry at their parents, to see their parents as against them or the other, and that they don't understand. And what my therapist helped me understand was that they were doing that intentionally, because they they love you so much that they have to push you away so they can fly the nest, basically. So they're looking for a reason to make you bad, to make you wrong, to be angry at you, so they can separate, to leave. And the same thing can happen in a relationship. Sometimes somebody can love somebody, but for whatever reason, they think the grass is greener somewhere else, and they want to experience that or leave the relationship and have another experience of life. But instead of just cleanly saying, I've either outgrown this relationship, or I want to experience something else, they have to destroy the relationship so they feel cleaner about leaving.
Yeah.
And often that can happen. I do remember being in a relationship where I felt that my partner, like, just completely turned on me. Like, it was almost like they were either having, I said, you're either having an affair, or you have a fantasy of a woman that is the perfect woman for you, and it's not me. Because a
Mhm.
flip just switched, and you went from being loving me to like hating me, and it was such a strong flip of a switch that I
Right.
knew it had to be one or the other. And I was told at the time it was neither. Only later to find out it was an affair. But
Right.
again, that's what I'm saying, is that feeling of being, on a pedestal 1 minute and then demonized the next really quickly. That is that is an indication that somebody is, for whatever reason, wants to not be in the relationship anymore. And as much as you can feel that love for them, if they've made that decision, uh,
Mhm.
the fact is they came back after the other one didn't work out. But it's, again, I don't know. I didn't know till later that's what had happened. But because I was so young and stupid, no, I don't mean it. I'm not berating myself, but I didn't realize I was being lied to. I knew something was wrong inside me. I could feel it, but it wasn't making sense. But to just, again, it's that sort of, but I love you. Okay, I love you, and I'll take you back. Whereas these days, if that happened, I'd be listening to those instincts. I
Yeah.
would be saying, yes, maybe my love for you didn't change, but yours clearly changed based on what you wanted to do outside of the relationship. And again, that's not enough to make it work, because it was a pattern that kept repeating itself. You know,
Mhm.
pedestal, off the pedestal, on the pedestal, off this pedestal. But I was young and I was damaged, and I enjoyed being on the pedestal. Now I don't want to be on a pedestal or off a pedestal. I just want to be normal, just normal relationship.
But the thing is, the thing about love, though, is also that that's because you got difference between conditional and unconditional love. I
Hmm.
don't mean spiritual, but it's like the thing is, when we have love that's based on conditions, then any violation of those conditions becomes off switch for the love. And so we get into relationships oftentimes where we go into love, we go into a relationship where we don't love them fully. We love certain parts, certain ways of them being. If they just move outside that framework, we just drop out of love right away. That's one of the challenges, that love is not given freely, fully, and openly. It's given like almost as a tease. It's like you stay in the straight and narrow, and the love will be fine. But you move outside of that, and it's not going to work. So, whereas unconditional love, or should say, I was better off saying more of the unlimited love, is we love them regardless of what they do, which is a much deeper connection, deeper opportunity. And again, that's a cumulative thing, not something you do right off the bat.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that love that we're, and this is another great show topic, is unconditional love. In obviously, I think we have that with our children. I do believe in adult relationships, things shift a little. But going back to that sort of, how tight that frame is, and often it's somebody that has an idealized view of what love is, and if you're not fitting in the frame, then you're either in love or out of love. But there
Exactly.
not an expansive framework. I mean, I do believe we have to have some framework, because otherwise, then we start, compromising our values, or allowing abuse, or allowing, whatever it is to happen. So there has to be a container of some sort. But
Right.
if that frame within that container is an idealized version of love, and your partner has to stay within that very tight framework, or you're going to punish them or reject them or push them away because they don't fit your idea of what they should be like, that's a whole other subject that I think we might even tackle that next week.
Quite possibly, because I mean, love's a big topic anyway. So definitely having different conversations, different points of it is important to have, because the thing is, love is something that is more than just one thing in this context. And yes, in this conversation, though, talking about how love is not enough is such a vital part of the conversation, because we sometimes think that's all it needs. And yet love can be more than enough when it's applied the right way, which we're not talking about here.
Yeah. Okay. All right. To be continued.
Indeed.
All right, lovely. Well, thank you, everybody. That was another great chat, Barry. I really love our weekly chats.
Same here. Look forward to the next one.
Okay, take care, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye. We trust you enjoyed this episode and invite you to share this with your friends and loved ones. In fact, please subscribe to our Relationship Mastery podcast. That way you'll get each new episode fresh and shiny as soon as it is released. We'd love to hear from you as well. So go ahead and enter your questions and comments at relationshipmastery.show. Take good care. We will connect with you in our next episode of Relationship Mastery.